ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Strege, once again, and this is now going to be a review on Delusions of Grandeur. Originally, it was a part of Inside Movies Galore because I put my reviews with my podcast, but we realized that the podcast has a different voice than my individual reviews, and so we are separating the two. So, that being said, enjoy the review. I had just done this after a podcast, so when I speak about the fact that I had just been on a podcast, understand that's where it was coming from. So, in any case, enjoy the review, folks.
Are you threatening me? Nay, my bunghole will ask the questions.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Strege, and I thought after the podcast earlier tonight, I'd do a lone review on a movie from 2012 by a director called Bain Zeitlin from New York, which is called Beasts of the Southern Wild. I have mixed feelings about this film. Mainly because it's done in a documentary type style, and I've always been somewhat in the middle on documentaries because some of them can be so boring, so long in the tooth that it's hard to keep my attention. And stuff that puts me to sleep, it's rarely it's rare that something gets my attention, but I kept hearing about this film, so I ended up watching it the other night, and I rather enjoyed it. It's about this little girl. She's of African-American descent. Her and her father are living in some rundown shacks in the middle of the Louisiana Bayou, and they live around a body of water called the Bathtub. So a lot of the story is narrated from the little girl's point of view, and her name is Hushpuppi. And her father's name is Wink. So we have the two living in separate shacks. He calls to her when dinner's ready, and she comes over. Hushpuppi also goes to a school in the middle of the Bathtub with other children of the surrounding areas. And her teacher, Mrs. Bathsheba, tells them about the melting ice caps that are around them and about this ancient mythical beast called the Auroch. Now, the Auroch actually looks like a relatively large, gigantic-sized wild boar. So when you see the images of this wild boar called the Auroch, I mean, it is beautiful, the way that they are portrayed in this film and throughout. I mean, there are issues of failing health from her father that at first, yeah, there's a storm. It's not a bad storm, but it is a raining storm, a monsoon-like storm that happens one of the nights, and she's Hush Puppy is scared. So obviously, there's a point in the story where her father goes missing, and the Auroch shows up like it's a menacing figure. So in actuality, it's like the story of these ancient beasts are kind of a reminder of the dangers that are close at hand, and how life is always changing. So after this big storm happens, and obviously the community around the bathtub is kind of a fishing community, because you see a lot of shrimp and crab being brought in for the peoples to eat. There seems to be some kind of a celebration that happens in town. Some of the people that Hush Puppy and her father, Wink, tend to hang around are what looks like an older couple who seem to have no problem drinking themselves to death. But after the storm, her and her father go out to see who is in the surrounding areas. Somewhere in between that time, her father had gone missing and had actually come back in a hospital gown and a bracelet. So there's obviously something going on with her father that she's starting to realize, especially when her father slaps her really good for her being nosy. So ultimately, they go and try to find the survivors of the people that were living in the bathtub, and there are quite a few children and at least several other adults that were found. And what happens is that the water supply that they were living nearby had become actually toxic. So because they could see that the animals from the surrounding areas were dying from this pollution in the water. So Wink, her father, concocted a plan to take and destroy the levee, the dam that was built to keep in this water that was in the bathtub. And so ultimately, Hush Puppy ends up doing this. And somehow or other, the emergency team from outside finds them, takes them to a hospital facility nearby. But by the time that he's supposed to have this surgery, it's too late. But while this is all going on, Hush Puppy and her group of childhood friends swim themselves to a boat, and there is a cook who is a woman who could be her mother, who says that they could live with her if they wanted, but she has to get back to her father, and ultimately she has to say her goodbyes, and she gives him an almost Viking-like funeral. And there's a lot of culture that I think that goes with this movie too. One of my favorite scenes is when she's supposed to break open this crab. Her father basically tells her to beast it open, and she lets out like a blood curdling scream, and she does the same scream in the end, which makes her kind of like a wild animal. So in a sense, it's like the beast was just her growing up. I don't know whether this is true or not, but it was definitely unique. It was somewhat entertaining. There was a little bit of humor and a little bit of reality too. I mean, you can see how some of these people were living, and it was definitely a different way and a different kind of a lifestyle. It's not that they were entirely homeless. They were in a sense, but they were living off the land. So in any case, I really enjoyed this. What I learned is that the film wouldn't have been made without its Indiegogo campaign. So a big thanks to those who actually took the time and contributed to that at the time. And it's gotten a lot of four awards, I believe. And that's quite a lot. I believe at the 85th Academy Awards in the categories of Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Actress, which at the age of 9, Wallace, who played Hush Puppy, became the youngest Best Actress nominee in history. So that was something to, something to think about. And I think being an independent filmmaker that made a big, big thing for this young director's career. Now, from what I understand, the director is coming out with a film in 2018. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's called Wendy. And looking forward to seeing what this director can come out with. It was definitely an amazing film the last time. Now the screenplay was adapted from a play, a one-act play called Juicy and Delicious. And that was Lucy Alibar's one-act play. And after Beasts of the Southern Wild, I believe that Lucy Alibar wrote a script of an adaptation of The Secret Garden, which supposedly Guillermo del Toro will eventually supposedly direct, which would be quite beautiful, I think, if that person becomes something. So I enjoyed the film. You should definitely check it out if you're into this kind of film. So it's really an art piece, to say the least. And I enjoyed the seeing the Iraq, seeing how it was portrayed. I mean, they were relatively beautiful beasts, and to have her touch one of them at the end, that was just priceless. In any case, hopefully you enjoyed my description of the film. You can definitely check it out on your own. You don't always have to like anything that I like. So this was my honest opinion and review of this film. So hopefully you like and subscribe. and I'll catch you later on another review.
My mother thanks you. My father thanks you. My sister thanks you. And I thank you.